Hello.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakestake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. Before we get started, if you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. Now, if you're listening to this on any of our audio platforms, please give us a 5-star review and please download our episodes. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to be talking to this actor and musician today. He is known as the King of Christmas, and he has 2 Christmas movies out. First is I'm Glad It's Christmas on Great American Family, and Fit for Christmas that will be appearing on CBS Plus and CBS and Paramount Plus. And as of this recording, he has over 60,000 Instagram followers and 178,000 Instagram followers. So please help me welcome Paul Greene to the podcast.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Where are you at, Jake? Where are you living?
I am coming from Overland Park, Kansas, a suburb of the Kansas City metropolitan area.
Okay. All right. I'm in California, Southern California.
Oh, nice. I love Southern California. I'm actually thinking about a trip to Southern California in 2023, so those vibes are great.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on.
You're so welcome. So let's get started. So when did you get interested in performing, and how did that passion evolve into desire to pursue a career in the entertainment industry?
Well, I've always been, I guess, a bit of a ham. I played drums really early and guitar, attempted guitar early. And I was an athlete. So I guess when you're playing for a big crowd you're performing to, even as an athlete, but then I had a dream that I was in a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie after watching Bloodsport, and then I kept waking up on the farm. I grew up on a farm, but I was waking up in the dream on, like, I'd wake up from being on set, which made no sense because I'd never even seen what a set looked like. So it was a premonition. And so as soon as I could drive, I put myself in acting school. And I was 16 then, and took my first course, or my first, I guess, experience of school for acting, and at Daryl Mork's studio. But then I went on a volleyball scholarship to college, and at college somebody discovered me for modeling, which took me on a big 10-year journey around the world. But all along the time I was doing commercials and in acting school, and I wound up in New York, did 100 commercials to date. But every time I was on set for a commercial, it felt like my dream. And I was like, this has to happen. So at 30, when my first son, who's now 19, was 6 months old, was born in New York City, we moved to Los Angeles for me to start over. Even though I was in a very uniquely successful male modeling thing, I had the fortune of working with Tommy Hilfiger and J. Crew. Because of that, every single catalog and every single company in the world who wanted that all-American look would hire me. So I was working 275 days a year modeling for these companies. And so it was, every time pilot season came around in LA, I would get the itch to go there, but I couldn't because I had so much work booked for print work. But the commercial days, the moving picture days, were the days that gave me all the joy and all the excitement. So finally, after a few things like 9/11 and the power outage on the East Coast and a couple other things, I got hit with water from a car and covered myself and my newborn. I was like, that's it. 3 strikes, you're out. In New York, after a decade of living there, moved to LA. And that was 18 years ago. And then out here, I got myself right into acting school and got very fortunate with a telenovela thing called Wicked Games, where we shot, it was on every night, and we did 60 pages a day. It was like really carving out my chops. With Tatum O'Neal was my love interest in that. And that was my first real job. I did a sitcom with Freddie Prinze Jr., which was my first real job. And then David Kelly saw me and asked me to do something for him called Wedding Bells and Harry's Law with Kathy Bates. And so there's been a few big breaks, and those were early in my career when I moved to out to LA. But then I was on a series called Bitten, and one of the producers at Hallmark, Bart Fisher, saw my character and offered me my first Hallmark movie 10 years ago with Danica McKellar. And then the next one was Candace Cameron. And then it just has been a series of movies and TV shows in that realm of sort of romantic comedy, mostly for the last 8 years or so.
I gotta say, that's incredible. Your work, holy smokes, and not just in New York, but also you're also extremely lucky in Los Angeles with all those names and all of those sets. And speaking of those sets, in addition to those that you talked about, you also appeared on shows such as CSI, Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, NTS, and one of my all-time favorite shows, The Newsroom. So what were some of the lessons that you learned from these sets, and how did it help you grow as a performer?
So many lessons, man. The biggest lesson was it's not about me, right? So as an actor and as a performer, so to speak, my job is not to look good. My job is to make sure that everybody feels like they're in good hands and that they can trust me with the big responsibility of telling the story. And so learning that, and you learn it quickly as a guest star, that you just show up and you're a guest star and there's leads and you're just part of the story. And then when you're a lead, it's easy to forget that and you start thinking it's all about you. So to remain humble enough to go, oh, I'm just telling I'm a part of a team. They're telling a story, and my job is to really serve my other actors and serve the story the best I can, not myself. And that was one of the bigger lessons. And, you know, I've been on 700 auditions and had 650 rejections, like 650 people tell me no. And those 50 yeses are my career, which I'm very proud of. But just being able to, another lesson I learned is being able to handle rejection in a way where I know it's not about me, not take it too personally, and just keep on moving forward.
I gotta say, I still got I got rejected for no's a lot when it comes to for guests on this podcast. But however, I'm very grateful for everybody, including you, for taking time out of your schedule to visit this platform, and also not to mention for jobs as well. I had literally 300 no's until I got a few yeses. So I'm very grateful for those yeses as well.
Yeah, and when you hear no, it's just important to remember that I like to reframe it as like not yet or how. Like if someone tells me no, I immediately if I really want it, first I have to ask myself, do I really want this thing that I got told no? And if the answer is yes, then it's like, okay, how do I get it in a way that it's a win-win for the person that told me no? And then, you know, it could just mean the timing's not right. So it could just mean not yet. Especially right? Like I have my podcast too. And sometimes if somebody says no to me, I just think, oh, okay, not yet. I'll try again.
We'll get back to the podcast in a minute. But first, we got to talk about these movies. So let's talk about I'm Glad It's Christmas. Can you describe the film to my audience and your character's role in the film?
Well, if I had it my way, I think the film would have been called Christmas Feels Like Falling in Love, because that's the name of the original song that was written for it. And this whole movie feels like falling in love, like it is. And, you know, to some people, I think Christmas does have that feeling of like what falling in love is. It's exciting, and it's also nostalgic, and it's hopeful, and it's dreamy, and it's magical, and it's also a bit nerve wracking. And like, so there's a lot. Christmas does kind of feel like falling in love. And that's the name of our song that Jessica, myself, and Gladys sing together. It was offered to me through Brad Cravoy, who is MPCA, who's done When Calls a Heart for Me and probably 7 other movies that I've been in. Brad Cravoy has. He also did Fit for Christmas, so he produced 2 of my 11 Christmas movies or holiday movies. No, Brad's probably produced 5 or 6 of my 11, but the 2 this year were both Brad. And so I'm a jingle writer in the show, and I have a daughter. And then she's a Broadway chorus actor. She's never been in the lead, and she's about to give up on her dreams. And we have a meet cute, which I'm sure you know all about those in romantic comedies. We meet fall in love pretty fast, but we got some big obstacles to overcome. She's going to go back and work as a dentist, and I have a daughter, and trying to get her, the obstacles that we overcome are the fun part, and how we do it is the romance and the part. And it's exciting, and it's crackling with humor, but also a lot of romance. It was really great. It was so cool to work with Gladys Knight, and so cool to work with Jessica. Jessica Lowndes and I sang together 3 years ago on a Christmas special. It's on my website under acting. If you go down under this movie, I'm Glad It's Christmas, at the very bottom, there's the show where we sang Little Drummer Boy, and a bunch of us Hallmark actors at the time sang a Christmas special, like Coming Home for Christmas, like an old school Bing Crosby kind of a thing. And that's when we first worked together there. We're like, it'd be great to do a movie together. We had a lot of chemistry then, and we just had the best time on this movie. We sang behind the scenes and laughed and took care of Gladys, because she's a little bit unfamiliar with being on a movie set. So it was awesome, dude. I have to pinch myself sometimes.
I know, because this is the Empress of Soul we're talking about. A legendary performer who's going to get her Kennedy Center honor, who's going to be honored by the Kennedy Center later this month. And also, what was it like working with this icon and music living legend?
Well, I didn't know her music. I obviously knew who she was, but I grew up on a farm with country western and gospel music. And not soul music. But I was familiar with Midnight Train to Georgia. But as it is with anybody, I treat everyone the same. I don't care that she's the Empress of Soul. If she's a good person, that's what matters, and who she is. She was a fabulous human being, and like, if she was a total diva and totally like unapproachable or mean, I would not be going on and on about her. So, it doesn't matter if it's Brad Pitt, or it doesn't matter if they're nice, not like nice, like friendly, if they're actually like down to earth enough to actually be relatable and kind to the lower people in the totem pole. That's what matters to me. She was fabulous. She was funny, and really funny, really, really charming, and told us stories. And, we took care of her. She hasn't been on an acting set for a while. I think maybe The Butler was her last picture, but it was awesome. It was such a unique experience to work with a singer. And people are going to love her singing, but also her acting was really special too.
That's so great to hear, because I'm a Gladys Knight fan, so I'm very interested to hear about that feedback, and I'm so glad to hear all those positive attributes by her.
Yeah, she's cool. And her whole team was really cool.
Awesome. So let's talk about the second film, because in addition to I'm Glad It's Christmas, you also have A Fit Christmas. And this time, your co-star is none other than the top co-host herself, Amanda Kloots. So what attracted you to this film?
I mean, I'd heard about Amanda and her journey with her husband, Nick Cordero, and what happened over COVID. I didn't follow the story, but when I looked it up, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember this. I remember how insane and intense that whole thing was. So her story is really compelling. And then, the story, and the writer was Anna White, who has written my Christmas movie I did last year called Christmas CEO. And I know she's a good writer, so to be able to write with her, or to be able to play with the words she wrote was something that drew me to it. But it was tough, because my son was just born and finished one movie, and they asked me to go directly to the next one. So it was a bit of a swing for me. I'd just done a pilot, and then the night I wrapped the pilot, I flew to Vancouver to do Fit for Christmas, and then I was home for 3 days before going to North Ontario to do I'm Glad It's Christmas. And then I was home for 4 days and had to go to Mexico to finish the third block of the Jaguar film. That's a feature film I'm doing as well. So I have 4 projects all at once while having a little baby. So it's an intense period of time, to say the least.
But it's all worth it as well, because your son is going to be able to watch your films, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, and I was with him for the whole pregnancy and also for the first 10 months of his life. I only had to sneak away for 15 days and then I snuck away for another 15 days. So it's not too bad. It's still, but I do get better sleeps when I'm on the road because he's a good sleeper, but lately I haven't slept in 3 nights because he's got a cold. So he's not, he's sniffly and coughing and he's not sleeping. So the last 3 nights I have not slept, which is challenging. It feels like I shouldn't be driving a vehicle. That's for sure.
All righty, Paul. I'll make sure I'll hold you to that. But before we move on to your podcast, there's one more question about A Fit for Christmas. Could you describe this character to my audience and can you compare those 2 characters from I'm Glad It's Christmas and also A Fit for Christmas?
Great question. Yeah. No, it's a great question. They're so different. Griffin Weston is my character in Fit for Christmas, a multimillionaire property developer, bit jaded by love. Whereas my character, Jason Murphy, in I'm Glad It's Christmas, is divorced, but he's a good relationship with his ex and a daughter to boot. So there's very little they're very different. I played them very differently too. Jason Murphy's not very sure of himself and super excited about everything, where Griffin Weston is much more cool and suavemente and definitely in charge of every moment. Where Jason Murphy from I'm Glad It's Christmas is much more I guess insecure in a way, and not certainly not a multimillionaire. He's a jingle writer. So it's always fun to play different characters, but I bring as much of myself to them. Like I look for as much of Paul that I can bring to them always. That's sort of what I do.
Awesome. So before we wind down this interview, I want to ask you 2 more questions. First of all, because we're on a podcast and you're a fellow podcaster, so you're a proud member of the podcast family. So could you describe The Grass is Greener to my audience? And who have been some of your favorite guests and why they made an impact on your podcast?
Thanks, Jacob. So yeah. I started it. It's called The Grass is Greener, and it's from the quote, "The grass is greener where you water it." And we live in a society where we feel maybe like the grass is greener on the other side, and we think that if we had someone else's life, we'd be happier or whatever. And the truth of the matter is the grass is greener where you water it. And so I wanted to interview people around the central topic of nurturing the things that you love. And so focusing on what you got rather than what you don't have. So I guess you could narrow it down to a bit of mindfulness involved in my podcast, but I end up going into interviewing mostly, I'd say, actors, a few health and wellness, a few musicians, just people I really want to talk to. Almost every one of my co-stars that I've worked with, I like to get them on. But I like to find out, just like you ask really great questions. I like to find out, what's something that the audience would really want to know, and then what can they take from our conversation to make their lives function a bit better. So I always like to pull out some nuggets that people can go, oh, I'm going to try that, or even products and be like, I never heard of that. Let me go try that and see if it makes my life better. So that came, I think I've done 13, 20, 30 episodes or something. So 2 seasons. And I love sitting down like this and finding things out about people, and I'm listening to have them share something that they've maybe never shared, or something that I find that would help my audience. And my favorite guest, I just had this epiphany that I need to get my mom on, and I need to get my mom on like often and like ask, just partly so I have the archives of the stories, like because I want to ask her all kinds of things. My mom's fascinating, so she hasn't been on yet, but I guarantee you my mom will be my favorite guest once I have her on. And my partner Kate, when she comes on, we talk about some really awesome things. And then so that's it. There's been some actors that are really, really special and really fun. Like Dan Lissing was a great one. Andrew Walker was a great one. Chris and Kevin from One Calls a Heart, those were both fun episodes. But I love it, man. It's a good medium. And I do the video as well. Like I put on YouTube. The videos get tons of views. People really like them, and then the audio, it does really well too. It's a neat medium. I'm looking to grow it.
Same here. It's a wonderful. I've discovered this experience for a long time. So, as someone that's reached 200, I cannot wait to see how you grow from here.
Wow, 200 episodes. Yeah, and what's something that you've learned that along the way?
I definitely learned that everyone has its own journey, and also like you brought up, like the grass is other greener. Like it's perfect that you told me about, because some of my colleagues have had guests that I've been dying to have, and they said no to me. So I'm sad to say, I'm talking to people who I have to say, stop comparing yourself to these people, because everyone is great, and all the people who've taken my time out of their schedules, including yourself, have bring something to the table. And this year has been huge because I've never had a string of actors from so many incredible networks, and I'm very grateful for that as well.
Right. Who's been your favorite? Like, what's the most where you were the most surprised?
I gotta say Howie Mandel. I spent 6 minutes with him to talk about Canada's Got Talent, but like I was so blessed and grateful for that, because I used to do America's Got Talent virtual press rooms, and he has answered all of my questions. But to have 8 minutes with him, it meant the world.
Super cool. I didn't have to check that out. And what's your podcast called?
It's called the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast.
All right, there you go. 200. Well, I got a ways to go. I'm only at 30.
All right, Paul. I'll talk about the podcast in a minute, but we got to start winding down our conversation. So,
okay,
what
buddy.
are some of your favorite social media apps that you like to connect with fans on?
TikTok and Instagram are fun. There's certain things in Reels. I like making little funny Reels, and I like the shareability of Reels. You can share them to your story. But then TikTok, I love because I can just save it to my device and then get rid of the TikTok logo. And then YouTube Shorts I use. I have a team, so if I shoot content, we kind of share it around to different places. Everyone has a different thing. Like Facebook is everywhere's Paul Greene Official except for Twitter. But Facebook I love because when I do a concert, I do live streams, Jacob. I do 2 or 3 a week, and I've done 500 since 2019, since the end of 2019. And the cool thing about that is on Facebook, people share it and it becomes like viral, right? Like it has the opportunity for someone to share it to their friends, and then their friends share it, where no other platform has that level of shareability, right? And my concerts are long, they're 2 hours, and they're sort of like podcasts. I share, I talk, I have people ask me questions. I sort of turn it into a bit of an event. But so they all have different purposes, but I'm Paul Greene Official everywhere. Twitter, it's Paul Greene Media. I haven't quite got Paul Greene Official from the guy yet. I'm trying.
Last question. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
One of the things I always do, everyone, is when all my guests are talking, I keep my mic off. However, I'm grateful to talk. So, my last question: are you ready?
I think I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready, Jacob.
Right.
Hit me.
Could you remind my audience where they can find get both A Fit Christmas and I'm Glad It's Christmas?
Yes, of course. So the first one that comes out is I'm Glad It's Christmas, and that's going to be on the Great American Family Network. Now, they can find that on their cable provider. It's there. And it also comes out on Hulu at the same time. Now, if you're out of country, I believe the Friendly app is a way to do it, FRNDLY. And there's another one that's called, I think my friend Bettina said something about I'll mention that when we get to the CBS. So that's I'm Glad It's Christmas. That's on Great American Family. That's the 26th. And I don't know what time because it's all different time zones. I think it's maybe 7 Central, but don't take my word for it. Go to paulgreene.com, which is my website. And under acting is all the behind the scenes of these movies, and also the schedule where you can watch it, how to download the apps, and where to get it in order to stream it if you want it, if you're out of the country. And this next one, so that's the 26th, 2 days after Thanksgiving. And that's with Gladys Knight and Jessica Lowndes. Very proud of that one. And the next one is Fit for Christmas, which is based loosely on Amanda Kloots' journey and written by Anna White, who wrote a previous Christmas movie of mine. That's on CBS December 4th, right after football. Now, I think it's 8:30 Eastern, but I think they're also doing it at the same time at 8 Pacific. So I'm a little confused at the timing, but once again, go to paulgreene.com, and on there you'll see all the scheduling and where to watch it and how to watch it, because it also is on Paramount Plus at the same time, I believe, or it might be the day after if you don't have CBS proper. But there's so many ways to watch these. You just have to be a little bit creative, but you could just hop on my email list or my text service, and we'll help you get to both of these.
And don't forget, they can catch episodes of the Grass is Greener podcast on your website, correct?
It's actually on Apple iTunes. I prefer Apple iTunes because they can rate, review, share, all that. And I think it's better for the metrics to watch. If they can listen to it on Apple, that's always best. But if not, I think it's available on Spotify. And I don't think it's on my website. It's on Simplecast where I produce them. But easiest is Apple or Spotify. But the link to it's on my website. My website is like an internet. There's so many avenues of things to do there. If you want to follow my music journey or the film and TV journey, or my wife and I have a transformational program called the Freedom Alchemist, which helps people who might be sabotaging their lives, like understand how and why they're doing that, and alchemize maybe something bad that happened in their past into something really powerful. So not being a victim to your past. And we've taken over 1,000 women through it in the last few years, and the testimonials are just bananas. And so there's pretty much 3 legs to Paul Greene. There's the music, the acting, and then there's the coaching side, which just blows my mind because I love making a difference. And some of the tools we share helps some of these women, release 111 pounds. One of our biggest, and she's 75, and she released that much weight. And I would say the average is 20 to 30 pounds. We probably have 10,000 pounds lost. And here's the thing. We're not a weight loss program. We help people love themselves a little bit better. And you'd be surprised by just by not beating yourself up, your body releases we sort of hold on to weight, so to speak, to protect us sometimes. And so in this program, we take people on a journey into discovery of themselves, and we have them question their doctor, hopefully change their doctor to more of a natural approach, get off medications with help with the doctor, not with us, and move their body every day, prioritize things like sleep and gratitude and family. And my wife has her master's in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is what makes Tony Robbins really good. And she is also a strategic intervention coach. And then I am studying at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition for my functional medicine degree. And so that's another side. That's a third leg to this stool that's really special to me.
All right, Paul, something tells me I have to have you back on and talk about those stuff. So, But however, Paul, you want to know where to find the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast?
There it is. It's right there.
Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict, Spotify, and Spreaker. It's Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. And Paul, jakes-take.com is wrapping up its 11th year of publication.
Congratulations. That's exciting, man. Way to go. You've probably really grown a lot.
Thank you so much. And Paul, thank you so much for taking time on your schedule today to talk with me, and happy holidays. And also, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next
Yeah.
time, have a great one, everybody. Goodbye.
See ya.